Hello, I'm really quite warm in my outfit and kind of regretting it, but does it look artsy enough for poetry? Unfortunately, yes. So this is what we're wearing today. Hi, how are you? My name's Tamarin, and today I thought I'd present to you for your judgment and criticism my very mediocre poetry. I thought I'd go this route as opposed to publishing it, because first of all, I don't think anyone would consent to publishing this, and secondly, I don't think anyone could read it how I intended it to be read, because most of it makes no sense. So here we are today. I'm here to read and defend my choices in life. Here we have a very typical poetry kind of notebook. You look at this, who wouldn't feel inspired, am I right? Now, just so you know, I've cherry-picked some of the poetry that I thought would probably elicit the most disgust. There are a couple poems I don't think I'll share because either they are too personal, or maybe I think they're kind of good and therefore don't want to put it in the public eye, because then it'll get insulted and I will feel very bad about myself. So we're gonna time travel back to 2017. I was 17 years old. I decided for some reason that I wanted to try write a poem a day, which allowed for quantity but definitely not quality. Oh my god. Let the dramatic reading begin. Untitled. A huff of laughter as natural as a breath. A tune my strings can't seem to match, no matter the time poured into poising my lips in the same manner. Why am I different? It's not normal to be normal, they assure me on cue. But is it normal to feel like a brick beneath a lick of paint, concealed and unable to express the gritty, orange, unevenly shapen emotions, whitewashed by the numbing fear embracing my brain? Would you take my hand, bearing sandpapered fingernails, and chip at the paint with your glossy gel tips? You wouldn't. No one wants to run a manicure to peel the paint from a perfectly smooth wall. I think at this point I was kind of reading Sylvia Plath a lot, and I felt very angsty and very much like I wanted to mimic her emotions. Clearly I didn't. It did not work at all. But I felt very proud of this being my first ever poem, and I was convinced that this was it. This was my calling. For some reason I didn't feel it necessary really to have any rhythm or structure or rhyme of any sort. I just kind of, took the creative initiative to really just have a stream of consciousness. I did not have any forethought into this at all. It just came out. As you can tell, I'm sure that explanation kind of makes sense. Another untitled. I also didn't seem to think there was any need to title my poetry. The poems just spoke for themselves. What's wrong with my outfit? Is it not appropriate for your cataract-filled eyes? Will I be struck down by lightning if I step a high-heeled boot over this threshold? I sure hope my fishnet stockinged legs won't melt into a pool, heading straight for hell. Is self-expression only allowed when my views coincide with yours? Does my stomach peeking out from beneath my crop top offend you so? Unfortunately, your heavily raised eyebrow, worn in from years of skepticism, does little to convincing you of a style change. Avert your eyes, for if they land on my helix piercing, your mouth will become a tightly bunched rose, which looks awfully uncomfortable. Are questions not allowed when they aren't the right ones then? My apologies. I'll attempt to give a damn. Wow, I was so cool and edgy back then. I actually really like the phrase, credit to past Tamarin. I like your heavily raised eyebrow worn in from years of skepticism. I had some stuff. I had thoughts in my brain that kind of made sense. As you can tell, I really just wanted to challenge society in general, rebel, cause a revolution. That was the intention of this poem, I presume. This was the beginning of a manifesto, actually. Did the revolution ever occur, you ask? No. But we're meeting on Friday. You guys are welcome to join. Bring pitchfork and your worst poetry with you. I also like to over-dramatize certain situations. So if some mild drama happened, I like to try integrate that into my poetry. All true poets draw inspiration from real life, so I thought this was what I should do. We got another untitled poem out of this. You act as though you did nothing wrong, smirking and shrugging and flashing an innocent smile at those who care to look, but I know what you did. I hear the lies splashing like spilt milk from your tongue, creating a mess for others to clean. I am bent on hands and knees to clean it with paper towel, as I don't want the blame, but I receive it anyway, despite my desperate efforts. I trail after you, head bowed, with the towel draped over my arm to correct the damage caused. But the towel becomes soaked, and I have to run to keep up. As I puff and pant, it dawns on me that I don't need to mind if blame lands on me. So thank you for the lesson. No charge required. I'm done with you, and if I trip and spill, I'll try not to point at you. Good rhyming. Rhyming you with you. Who would have thought? I really was a spicy character. I remember who I wrote this about as well. I don't think it warranted this terrible poem, to be honest. Running along a very similar thought process, and this is actually about a boy. Yes, I was very deep. Don't tell me I'm different, then ignore me for days until your egotistical face craves compliments on repeat. When you're all alone besides the taunting voices in your head, the only praise given for the sole purpose of its return. Your face lights up as assurances are given that your body is fit and your personality interesting. I give you up. I don't have time for games. Please find someone else to gaze adoringly at your strong hands and straight nose. As long as someone does, I'm sure you're not fazed. Pose just right and the audience will clap. Don't mind me as I slip out the back, edging away from my front row seat. The world of you fading from view as I turn my back. Don't worry if you can't recall me. The stage lights blind your sight of the faces in the crowd gathered at your feet. I sound like I just went through a divorce. This was a very mild circumstance with someone who I had known a month, but I clearly was done with him. As you can tell, we still are maintaining that style of no rhyme, no rhythm, and very little else of what poetry actually consists of. It's a new year. It's 2018. Has my poetry improved? Probably not. This one actually has a title, that's quite exciting. Our first title poem, it's called Friend Shopping. Take your pick, I have an array as you can see. There's laugh and surprise or giggle with glee. Further down the aisle sits angry reply, and just behind that you'll find exasperated sigh. Now I'm not sure of your budget, but over here you'll find the one and only, genuine and kind. Now, not many will splurge on such an expensive item, but quality is guaranteed. What's that when you ask? Oh, just friend in need. A waste of money if you ask me. You'll take one from the front. Oh, marvelous indeed. These are the real bestsellers here. The other ones are headed for the trash, I fear. Okay, I get what I was getting at. Valid. Deep, as we've established, all of my poetry is very deep and has hidden layers, but how does a facial expression compare to an entire person? I don't think I was very consistent in my sense making. I think the concept is good and the handwriting is better. There is rhyme. I actually have proper, like, structured paragraphs going on here now. I'm gonna give this like a B. I think it has merit. It's definitely better in comparison to some of my other poetry, so you know what? I'm not gonna hate on this one too much. This one's untitled. Once again, I'm just going to give it a title. I'm going to call it Analyze, just because I feel like it, and it's the one word that's sticking out to me because of the weird way I wrote it. I can't help but analyze what you say to me. Banter is archived in my brain for a serious deconstruction later. I tell myself I won't be that person, but I've read the books and watched the movies even. You each harbor a secret love for each other, and I, the jealous observer, can do nothing but quietly suffer. My mind has created thousands of scenarios, often comparing the situation to what I've seen in shows. You may realize by now how dramatic this is, and how sad these thoughts appear, which is just further proof why you will never like me, based on the deductions here. That's not too bad, that's not terrible, it's dramatic, but I clarified that in here, admitting that it is dramatic. Not that bad. Wow, this is just me showing off my poetry now. It's not even critique anymore. I think I'm just quite surprised at my sudden change of style. I've suddenly started sort of rhyming, and I've got paragraphs going again, and I think I finally realized what poetry actually was, whereas before I was just kind of writing, I don't know, a stream of consciousness. It was like someone actually showed me the definition of poetry, and I was like, oh, that's what that is. Let me kind of try and replicate it. And the attempt was, well, an attempt. I can see I am growing. It's also a bit angsty. Do we expect anything less at this point? No. This one's about music. I like music. This is gonna be good. The music makes life feel like a movie, a scripted film with a happy ending, and I, the main protagonist, mending while wending, dancing despite the struggles I'm facing. My plot has a point, some type of meaning. All my problems will suddenly have a solution. A life lesson would have been learned, and in the last scene, a reward has been earned. The crush attained, the lost dog claimed, a rejuvenated life finally in motion. And then the tune ends, and I blink dazedly, the final happy scene glistening behind my eyes, and the sparkle slowly fades and dies as I return to reality, where the only real meaning of life is to fake it correctly. I'm so deep. I know I've said that before, but like, who would have seen that ending coming? Not me. Is that not the most relatable thing you've ever heard? Don't we all think we're in a movie sometimes? First of all, I'd just like to say, what is wending? I know that's a real word, I know, but who uses that word? When has that word ever actually been put to use? It should just be erased from the dictionary. I have never used that word in a sentence in my life. Why did I do that? No. And then also, I tried to rhyme solution with motion for some reason, but far too late along in the paragraph, as well as it just doesn't rhyme. So there was a poetry competition in 2018 in my final year of school, and I decided to enter it. So this is the poem I wrote, and at the time I was watching The 100, so for some reason I just projected all my knowledge of The 100 into a poem, and I remember giving it to my teacher to proofread. She said, "I don't understand what it's about." I think that's a very good analysis of this poem, just putting it out there before I even read it to you. Also, untitled. I think I gave it a title, but I didn't write it here for some reason. Sacrifice the few to save the many. Do it for the greater good. Don't concern yourself with chances. You'll have plenty of opportunity to leave them in the woods. The stragglers, the unneeded, they're all disposable. Without them, success is possible. Don't back out now. Warm your feet up. If you stick to this plan, you'll have more than enough. Natural selection is a gift, not a curse. If you try save them all, it'll end for the worse. A short disclaimer would now be appropriate to remind you that actions enacted to hold on to your life may result in you not deserving it. I think that's almost a quote from the show where they said, make sure nothing you do means you don't deserve the life you're trying to preserve, or something like that. So I've somehow wended, that's when you use that word, wended that into here. Needless to say, I did not win the competition. And then mid 2018, I just released a video about it. I came out as bisexual, and I wrote a poem about it. And I'm not going to tear into it too much because I was in a very fragile emotional state when I wrote this. It was about a week after I came out, and I was so confused as to what. Like, I'd always built that moment up so much in my mind, and there'd been so much anticipation that I couldn't believe that there was life after coming out. Things didn't just explode when it happened. So I wrote a poem about it, and it's called My Secret. It has been in my throat, at the back of my mind, sheltered from the public, that precious secret of mine. I release it unwittingly, almost unwillingly. I don't think I'm ready. Shaking, cracking, I want to take it back. Now the box is empty, so is my mind. I can stare into space for hours at a time. I look around and see it floating there for the world to study and pretend not to care. I'm stripped down, raw and exposed. I don't know what to do now that everyone knows. I feel the stares not quite rejected, just maybe a little very unexpected. I blush and shrink into my chair, wanting to be accepted, but life's not fair. I mean, for the most part, I was accepted. That's a bit melodramatic, that last bit, I will say that. But it is how I felt at the time, so I'm not going to undermine or invalidate my feelings. I think this is a very, very accurate representation of how I felt. I think people could actually maybe relate to that in certain ways. With any secret or something they've been keeping inside them for a while, you just suddenly feel very empty and very vulnerable when it's not inside of you anymore. We're in 2019 already. Oh, okay, so in 2019, I was in Luxembourg, I was out of school, and I was in a very French environment, a very francophone environment, if you will. So I decided to try my hand at French poetry. Yes, that's as cringy as it sounds. And I only wrote one French poem, a 5-liner, and it's called Une autre. Elle aime une autre. C'est d'accord, j'ai une autre. Mais ce n'est pas d'accord, parce que j'aime une autre. So in translation, it means she loves another, that's okay. I have another, but that's not okay because I love another. So basically a brain twisting situation going on there, you know, like, oh, she loves that girl, but oh, you know, this has so many levels to it because first of all, it's my first proper bisexual poem. I had a crush on a girl when I was in Luxembourg. It's so hot in here. I'm really worked up. Needless to say, that's the last French thing I ever wrote. Thank God. We're on 2020. Did we only have one poem for 2019? I clearly wasn't in a creative mood then. So we're only in like, what, May? Haven't written many poems. They're not very good. But you know what? We're gonna do one. One is called Insomnia, kind of self-explanatory. maybe you can relate. I'm such a relatable poet. I'm not a poet. I flop about restlessly, irritable that sleep so deftly evades me. I dance fitfully around the room, attempting to lull my body into exhaustion. I read a chapter of a girthy novel, to scoop the existential crisis from my brain with a wordy metaphorical shovel. I bask in the moonlight, sprawled on damp grass, admiring the enormity of the galaxy. My mind quiets down, and the receding thoughts smooth my frown, as the cool 2 a.m. breeze rushes over my prone form. My eyes drift closed as I lay on the lawn, and I don't stir until the twittering birds signal the coming of the morn. You know, it's a bit awkward critiquing myself when this was relatively recent, like a month ago, so I know it's not good though, that's the thing. I was very sleep deprived when I wrote this, hence insomnia. I literally wrote it at like 2 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. The dots are like connecting, it just... So that is my terrible poetry. There is more of that where that came from, trust me. I have about another at least 10 and another book somewhere, but I thought that was maybe the limit for today because I am going to start hating myself and never want to write again. So what did we learn from this? Poetry is not my forte. I enjoy creative writing a lot, I enjoy words a lot, I enjoy reading a lot. I sometimes like reading poetry. Believe it or not, I think it's very pretentious. Most of the poetry I read, I'm just like, oh my god, this person thinks they're God. Reading through my poetry, it almost comes across as though I think that too, but I really don't deserve the title. I think maybe it's also because I don't read a lot of poetry. I have only picked up certain styles and certain tricks, and I would need to read a lot more if I actually wanted to be good at it, but I'm not really passionate about it. I prefer creative writing. I think it's less restrictive and less, it has to have some sort of form and some sort of deep meaning, and I can just write absolute shit. I enjoy that. I enjoy not feeling restricted. I know poetry's not meant to restrict you, but I just feel like it does. I promise you, my creative writing isn't that terrible. I'm a lot more myself and a lot less whatever that was. I hope you enjoyed my really poor poetry. Please let me know which one was your favorite. And by favorite, I mean which one you thought was the worst. So if you watched this thinking, oh no, her poetry could not be as bad as mine, I hope that this showed you that it definitely was much worse than yours, and you can be a poet if you want to be, because if this is your competition, you're gonna be fine. Not to throw any shade or anything, but have you seen some of the recent poetry books that have come out? Specifically YouTuber poetry books. I think you stand a chance. I hope everyone's having a great quarantine. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all writing poetry and staring at the stars and just getting in touch with your deep emotional emotions. Bye.